without further ado, I'd like to announce our speakers. We have Amy DeTola of Aureus Advantage, Jerry Sneed of Third View Private Wealth. We have Blair Duquesne of Ritholtz Wealth Management, and we have Christian Haig of Compound Planning. Thank you.
Right. Hi, everybody. Excited to be kicking off Future Proof here in beautiful Huntington Beach. Today we are going to talk about family office services. Family office level services have usually been in the realm of what I would say the ultra high net worth space. But what we've seen over time is an evolution across the spectrum. And clients are demanding more and more from advisors, whether it's consolidated reporting, tax entity reporting, investments, bill pay, etc. What happens is it starts just asking for more and more. So today we're going to have talk a little bit more about that. And the opportunity is very clear. It creates a sticky client. But what we're talking about today, it also is very, very, very challenging to scale these family office services. So we're going to dig in today with 3 experts with different lenses on family office, and hopefully you'll learn a lot today. So we're going to start with Christian. Christian, you've always been a tech-forward thinker, originally founding Legalist, and now your current firm Compound, to bring this family office level services to a younger demographics of clients leveraging technology. How do you define family office services, and how does technology create a differentiator?
Thank you, and thank you for having me here today on this beautiful stage on a beautiful day. So, as you mentioned, I got my start in asset management with a firm called Legalist that I founded back in 2016, really focused on legal assets like litigation finance, bankruptcy investing, government receivable financing. And a few years ago, I got started in the wealth management space with what is now Compound Planning. And what we had seen is that the traditional firms don't really have a great technology backbone to be able to service next generation clients. And so that's why we got started and built the firm. And for us, what we really think of as family office services, and it's different for different firms, but what we do for clients is financial planning, investment management across liquids and alternative investments, tax advice, tax filing, and insurance. And we wrap all of that up in a digital experience where a client can see the consolidated balance sheet across all of their assets in one place. And we primarily work with, as you mentioned, younger generation advisors, next generation clients who typically are frustrated at traditional firms and are looking for a better seamless experience for that demographic.
So Blair, let's move to you. You are a tenured financial advisor, and you currently oversee the family office practice at Ritholtz. Why does your firm offer these services, and what was this evolution for you?
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to give credit where credit's due. My colleague Taylor Hollis actually oversees the family office, but I've been there since the inception, but I do want to give her credit for that. So basically what happened is our firm grew and the sizes of our clients grew. And we had to pivot to figure out how are we going to service larger, more complex clients. And that involved figuring out who we needed to hire, who needed to be on each service team, how we would structure the operations. It's all customized, and that's really the evolution. As the clients came, and then we had to figure out how to thoughtfully service them as these larger and larger relationships were coming to the firm.
Yeah, I like this idea. What you'll hear a lot is this: many firms become accidental family offices. You have this evolution where you get a really, really rich client, and you start to want to do more. And we're going to talk a little bit today about that cautionary tale of doing more. Jerry, now you've run family office, and now you lead Third View Private Wealth, and you offer outsourced services to wealth firms or to families. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what looks like on the inside of a traditional family office?
Yeah, happy to. Just let me give you some context, though. So I started my career in 2009, right after the financial crisis. I worked at, the only job I could get was a commission-only, no-salary advisor at inside of an insurance agency. So it took me 6 months to get my first client. My first paycheck was $157.10. I actually cut grass Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and cold called Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday mornings.
Nice.
My wife, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she paid the rent. Fast forward 7 years, I'm flying on a private jet that I bought, renovated, on my way to New York City to do due diligence for a company we're going to buy for $500 million. I traded $40 million a month in notional options value, oversaw hundreds of millions of dollars in public market securities, and I'm here today to tell you that I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And I tell you that because that's my main insight today, is that it didn't matter that I didn't know what I was doing. This guy trusted me to figure it out. Understand that most family offices know one thing really, really well, and they capitalize on it. That's how they make all their money. They know a lot less about everything else than most of the people in this audience do. So if you can earn their trust, they're willing to grow with you and learn and figure things out for the betterment of their family.
So talking about that, kind of taking that infrastructure and, the accidental family office, let's talk, should do you think that family offices services should be like, build them out of the gate, should be a differentiator, or do you just layer them on like many of you have kind of said, like what's the right approach? I'll start with you, Blair, on kind of your evolution and what you think the right approach is.
It's the chicken and the egg, right? I don't think you can just put family office on your website and then they're going to come, right? So in a certain way, maybe you have an interesting story where you fake it till you make it.
Yes.
We all did. I love that origin story, by the way. But eventually you may find yourself in a situation where you're going to be advising a client who needs complicated and comprehensive services. And if you do a good job for that client, you're probably going to get another one. So while you can't go out and build this whole family office suite just hoping that they're going to come, you do have to be thoughtful about how your business is growing and whether or not you even want this business in the first place. Yep. And you're kind of going, what? Of course I would want a really, really big client. But if you have a very large client who is responsible now for a huge percentage of your revenue, now you have a big risk. What if you mess up? What if they leave? If they're taking more of your time, now you have an issue of profitability. And this is a lot of times not simple work. It takes a lot of hours, a lot of man hours and woman hours, and a lot of customization. So I think it's very important to decide, do I want to be in this servicing this type of client, and then think about how you're going to do it. And I think the most important thing is to just determine right up front, what do I want to do in-house, and what do I never want to do? Because you could find yourself just scope creep of the engagement, offering more and more services, and then quickly figuring out that you just don't have the capacity to do that. So I think it's also very important to take a step back and say, okay, if I'm going to work with these large families, what am I going to specifically provide to them, and what am I not going to provide to them? And then you kind of have to go through the exercise of figuring out, well, the things that I'm not going to provide to them, they're going to ask me about it anyway, so who am I going to refer them to? And start building out that network of other professionals. So first, I think really hard about whether you really want to do this.
Hey, Christian, so you actually intentionally built a firm for this segment. Tell us a little bit about kind of your view as you actually build it and they will come. Tell us a little bit about kind of that journey and your thought as you, why is it working for you?
Sure. I actually see it very similarly to Blair in the sense of, it's an intentional evolution. So over time, you bring on more clients. Some of those clients, desire products that you don't yet have or solutions you don't yet have. And at some point, you get a critical mass of clients who need a solution, and it makes sense for you to deliver it. I think of it as, the alternative where you set up all of these solutions from the outset. It's very easy to get drowned in the complexities of trying to offer a lot of different services all at once. And then the second issue that you have is that you can very quickly get upside down on your financials if you try to offer too many different solutions all at once. And so, we have a lot of clients, and intentionally we have a lot of clients who, do want solutions that we don't yet provide. But, we say to them that it's more important that we get the solutions that we do offer right before going and adding new things. For us, it's as much what we say no to as much as, the services that they want and that we provide.
Jerry, what's your lens on this? Are there some common mistakes you see maybe firms taking when they try to add these services?
Yeah, I think the main kind of thought process when you're thinking about what services to offer or what target market you're going to go after, family office services or others, I take a page out of Samantha Russell's book from FMG, who spoke earlier today, in the sense that if you're not rejecting a client, then you're not getting the client you want. So figure out your target market, be confident in that. You're not trying to build a firm where you're all things to all clients. It's just not going to work. So focus your efforts on one thing and execute on it.
What do you think, I'll open this to all of you, what do you think that clients really value? Like, what do they really value for family office services? I'll open it to anyone here. Like, what's one thing, if you could say, like, you have to get right?
To me, it's all about trust. It's all about trust. That's no matter what, they want to trust you. They want people in the room that they can trust blindly. That's what family office services is.
How about you, Blair? What do you think you have to get right?
There's a certain level of wealth where your money becomes a job. And if you can take some of that effort and time and give the client their time back, and they have to trust you for you to be able to do that, and give them the peace of mind that the wheels aren't going to come off the bus, that's the value that you're providing in family office services.
Anything, Christian, what's one thing you really got to get right?
Yeah, I think about it as thinking about the client holistically. They have all these different service providers, like an accountant who's filing their taxes, or an insurance broker who can get them insurance. But there's someone there who's thinking about their entire balance sheet and looking out for them across all of these different facets.
So Jerry, you kind of mentioned it a little bit. In addition to family office services, you spent some time at the Wirehouse, right? And tell us a little bit about kind of what a competitive advantage do these advisors on the RIA side of the business have actually over a Wirehouse when it comes to offering family office services?
I mean, our entire industry is a competitive advantage in my mind. When you think about what wirehouses need to do is they need to govern the top advisors at the firms as well as the advisors coming right out of the training programs. So it's a compliance nightmare to all of a sudden have an advisor who's handling a family office, which, as I highlighted in my intro, is nuts. I mean, you're doing a variety of different things. They need, quick, multifaceted advice, and it's really, really hard for a compliance, officer to wrap their heads around that. And so I think the nimbleness of our space is a huge advantage.
Love that. So Blair, you mentioned a little about the intentionality of building your teams and getting the people around them. What is maybe one internal process or team role you think that is absolutely essential for making the family office services work?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to one, but I will say
give us your
making
lens.
sure that you have superstar people on the operations side, right? People who know how to open very complicated trust accounts that are owned by LLCs where there's multiple beneficiaries, right? People who speak this language, because there's nothing worse than having, a major operational failure and it takes you 4 weeks to open the account, right off the bat. So that's key. And if money needs to go out for a capital call or money needs to go out to pay taxes, like your ops people have to be able to operate really efficiently. And then we think of the service team as there's the advisor relationship manager who kind of oversees everything and owns everything on the team. Then you have your superstar client service associate. You might have a market strategist specifically for that client, a dedicated trader specifically for that client, and then an associate advisor who's helping out. So that's kind of the base of our team. But I think if you're not ready on the ops side, you can get run over really quickly.
Love that. Christian, you you deal with a younger, I would say more tech comfortable, tech native client. What does your version of this modern family office look like, and how is it different, you think, from the traditional family office?
Yeah, so I think it changes the client relationship in a fundamental way. So two of the main pieces of our technology, one is a client dashboard, and a client is able to aggregate all of their accounts in one place. It's truly a consolidated balance sheet for a client. I mean, and when I say, a consolidated balance sheet, it's not just, your liquids, your alternatives. It's really everything. So a client, if they have a collection of suits of armor, they can also include those in their net worth. And so what it means is that then we layer on top of that what's called an activity monitor. And this is essentially AI enhancements based on the data that we are collecting on clients. And it allows advisors to be proactive to their clients. So I'll give one example. One of our advisors, they work with a lot of lawyers, and one of the partners that he works with, he gets distributions every year based on the profits of the firm. And his distribution shows up in his checking account, which shows up in our dashboard. And the advisor is able to see that and immediately reach out to the client and say, hey, do you want to go and invest that money? And so the advisor looks great because he's keeping on top of the client. The client gets to invest their money immediately without having to think about it. And of course, the advisor is able to manage another $500,000 of AUM. And so it's things like these that allow the advisors to be really proactive on top of their clients.
Jerry, what do you think about, like, with technology kind of, coming more into the family office space? What are you seeing as some interesting technology that's kind of helping you with your clients? Sorry, I know I didn't ask you this before.
Yeah, that's all right. I find that most people with, that have accumulated a lot of wealth, they have challenges with technology. All my clients that are family office clients were in, unique industries, wallpaper, cement, a lot of doctors. Using the tech is a challenge. I think the tech is strong when you're going after the next generation. It's a good way to kind of bridge the gap. We use more like Bill.com, for example, to help people pay bills, or we use a lot of more service level technology on our side, newsletters, stuff that allows us to scale ourselves, because the family office client wants you, the advisor. It's not a situation where you pick up a family office client and then you pass them off to the team. You're the guy. Figure out a way to scale yourself by using tech behind the scenes, by using good staff, et cetera.
Yeah, I love that. I love, using tech as an accelerator for that human connection. So the session is on profitability, so we need to get into the meat of the subject. So, I've worked with many RIAs and family offices over the years, and I can see if you do not have intention and you let these things start creeping in, we talked about it right here, you start doing more and more and more for the client without this intention. One day you wake up and you've got a $100 million client that really isn't necessarily profitable because you've got so much that you're throwing at them, and what you're throwing at them is really not repeatable per clients. And it is tough to actually do things repeatable because each client is a very, very, bespoke in the way they do things. But so let's talk a little bit about the economics, because it is something that can be very slippery slope. So let's talk about how each of you approaches the kind of pricing of these family office engagements. I'll start with you, Jerry, and what you've seen and how the evolution has it evolved over time.
Yeah, one thing I had to learn, probably because I grew up inside the wires, was just candid, transparent fee discussions with clients. These families of significant wealth will pay you whatever you need to be paid because they want people they trust in the room. So you figure out what you need, why you need it, and lay it out for them. Every single fee engagement I have for family offices is custom to their needs specifically. They're all different, and it's all based on how much they need, and it all starts with how much they trust us.
Do you do is it different? Like some are flat fees, some are engagement models, or things like that?
Yep, some are flat fees, some are, they'll pay us one fee for the assets that we custody and oversee. They pay us another advisory fee to oversee their wirehouse advisors. I had one client who was kind of skeptical of advisors. I gave him no fees for 6 months to build a rapport with them. It's really custom.
Blair, as you had this evolution with results, into the family office space. Tell us how you had to have those conversations or maybe change the way, you know, you're charging your clients.
Yeah, a lot of our competitors in the space are the big trust companies and the really large institutions, and they tend to bundle every single service into that fee. And they don't really offer the option of, well, I don't need that, so I don't want to pay for it. It's just kind of an all-in-one price. And I think that's where we have an advantage as being an independent advisor is we can say, look, if you don't need help with your philanthropy because you already have staff, we're not going to charge you for that. So we do, in certain cases, have AUM fee and our lowest break point, but at a certain level of wealth, it doesn't make sense to keep charging 35 basis points or whatever it is on hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So we just say, all right, here's what we think. Here's what we're going to offer you. Here are the services that you're going to pay for, and here is an annual dollar amount, and we'll charge you quarterly for that. And it's very transparent, but sometimes you find that you end up needing to do more work than you thought in the beginning, and then you have to have a discussion about this annual retainer is going to go up because we're doing more work. It can also happen in the reverse. There can be a lot of work that has to happen in the beginning, and then that fee might actually come down. So I always say, sometimes you just got to put on your big girl panties and go ask for the money, and they do value it. It's so true. Like, you are giving them back their time and their peace of mind, and that is worth something.
Christian, do you think that your technology help you actually be able to understand the amount of time you're putting into these investments? How do you guys price at Compound? How do you price the family office engagement?
Yeah, this is actually one place where we don't really innovate. So, we charge an AUM fee like anybody else, is tiered as the net worth goes up. And then we also charge fixed fees for ancillary services like tax filings. Actually, the way that we grow, so there's the organic component where we're bringing on new clients all the time, but also a big component of our growth has been recruiting advisors from other firms, more traditional firms. And so, we're typically adopting the same fee structure for each client who comes over to make it frictionless for that client to come over as they were previously paying. So, if they were paying 1% before, they'd be paying 1% with us. If it's 80 bips at their prior firm, they'd be paying the same with us.
Jerry, can you help us a little bit with the fees and how to actually ask for more and show your value and add a little bit more to this?
Well, one thing I was going to point out is that when you're thinking about pricing these engagements, understand when you're getting a family office client, you're getting more back than just the fee. So all of a sudden you're getting scale, meaning you have someone now that can write a $5 million check into an investment. Maybe that's the anchor investment, and now you can offer that investment to the rest of your clients. All of a sudden, maybe you have enough AUM to be, it raises your credibility. You're all of a sudden available to do rankings. There's a lot of other aspects to, kind of get value out of the family. And lastly, like me, you get to learn with them alongside of them, and it's a lot of complexity, so I don't think that can be discounted. So just understand that when you're pricing these, what you're getting in return other than the monetary value.
I know a lot of advisors have a really hard time asking for more money. Blair, can you, we discussed that, you've had to have those conversations. Can you just give some advice to the advisors that are maybe at a point where they actually need to ask for more?
Yeah, so you're worth it. Your client will understand that you're worth it. And you just have to get over it and say, here's what we're doing. Here's our best estimate of how many hours it's taking and what we charge in the market for that, and this is the price. I have not, luckily, I'm sure it'll happen, I haven't had a client have a problem with that, because generally they understand in their mind the work that you're doing and how much it's worth.
One of the things I want to ask about is, what do you think of, what's one thing that clients, your family office clients, think you wouldn't think that they would really think is really fantastic, but they do? Is that bill pay? Is that tax planning? What's that one thing that kind of maybe people are thinking to put into place, but they're not sure if clients will actually value that?
I think for us, it's the basics on the technology side are so important. It's like just being able to easily log into things and move around the system and it not be complex is just something that clients really appreciate, especially when they come from traditional firms where they have really clunky technology and multiple systems that they have to log into.
Tax.
Tax?
Absolutely. If you can help wealthy clients understand what's going on with their tax return and how much money they can give away to charity this year and whether it should be property or cash and how much in each and give them sort of a projection, that's like 80% of the value. So thank you, Bill Sweet.
How about you, Jared? What do you think?
I would say legacy planning. We spend a lot of time talking to clients, what's important to them, what do they want the next generation to know, let alone the generation after that, doing letters of wishes, just really thinking through, how important their legacy is, and they don't want to think about it, and we push them really hard to do that, and that's bode well for us.
I love that because, one of the things that you hear a lot about is called family governance. Now, when you think about family governance, you're like, how do I scale family governance? But, families obviously, especially families with this ultra high net worth families, have these probably very complex, dynamic, interpersonal. How are you balancing that, the technical advice with that human side of it, Jerry?
Yeah, it's challenging. I think if it's technical advice or the human side of the advice, it does come down to trust. The matriarch or the patriarch of the family obviously trust you. One mistake that I learned early on was you need to earn the trust of everybody in the family. Just because you get introduced to the kids, you can't be arrogant and say like, all of a sudden they're going to listen to me. You need to independently build the relationship and the trust of those people, because when a sticky situation comes up in the family, they need to trust you to mediate it. And if you don't have the full-hearted trust of everybody in the family, you're not going to be the person doing that for them. I would also say that build your network of family planning experts. We've talked a lot with psychologists, et cetera, that can really come in and help us when the stakes are high, when you're talking about prenups or divorce or drug addiction. I mean, you name it, we've seen it. And so it all does come back down to trust. Know what you're good at and your abilities, and then know when you got to tap in some professionals to help you out.
Blair, we've talked about the importance of governance and education. With these family dynamics surface, how do you kind of help create either the structures or the conversations that help them, move forward past just the technical of what has to happen?
Every client has their own journey in this path of understanding that one day they're not going to be around and they have children or family members who are going to overtake, and they're going to need some information and some help. Now, every client is at a different place when they come to you. So you may be working with the client for years before this comes up, but eventually it's going to come up. And it's always good to remind them, hey, we need to at least get the bells and whistles, basic estate planning documents updated, and it will naturally, things will come up. We consider family office clients that have federally taxable estates, right? So that is when you get into gifting strategies. It's got to go to someone, and so eventually you will have an in on having those conversations. I'm a little thrown off because I got a call this morning that one of my clients unexpectedly died.
Yeah.
And we were just going over with her trustee, like, what do we do next? And like the first thing is like, how do we make the doctor listen to the sister who has medical power of attorney about what she would want done? And so you have to always be open and let them know that this is important to have these conversations, like never leave the meeting without bringing it up, but also let them be ready to have the conversation, because not everybody's ready to start having that type of conversation.
And so, so you can see that like it is family office can be a slippery slope. Go into it with eyes wide open, because it's not for everyone. Again, if you're not going in with intention, to just thinking about what Blair just said, having to have those really deep conversations and talking about powers of attorney, and it can really, you need to have the infrastructure and the support. Christian, do you see your technology or technology in general helping reduce this friction in family dynamics at all?
I think a lot of the friction comes from the interpersonal side, the interpersonal dynamics within the family, and there's no substitute for having a trusted advisor who can have those difficult conversations with the family. So technology can help on the technical side, gathering all the data that you need and making it seamless for an advisor to have all of the information that they need at their fingertips. But yeah, you can't really get rid of that trusted aspect of working with an advisor that the whole family knows and trusts.
Let's talk a little bit about in-source, outsource, making those decisions as to like what we're going to in-source and what we're going to outsource, because I assume as these relationships you get more complex, you've got to decide when to bring in trusted advisors, when to build it on your own. So tell me a little bit, Jerry, kind of your thoughts on like what advisors should think about when looking at what I in-source something, whether I outsource, and kind of what best practice you might have for us.
Yeah, I don't know about best practice. It's a challenge because, as I said, each family office is multifaceted and obviously just totally different. So it depends on what they want. There's some clients that we don't do anything besides just quarterback everything. We don't have custody. There's a different attorney. There's a CPA. We're just there to kind of be the sounding board and oversee everybody else. And then there's some clients that don't have anybody. They just sold their business, and we're in the driver's seat on all aspects. So insourcing versus outsourcing, I think you need to build your network, and I think that's what we're all here to do this weekend. So I would focus on having I call them tools in the toolbox, people that know what they're doing, and then just kind of piece it together as you meet families.
Blair, do you have any thoughts on kind of when you're approaching, like when do you decide this is something we should probably look outside our firm to do?
Yeah, I think you have to think really hard about what the natural talents are in your firm and what the DNA of your firm is. Most of us are advisors. We're very comfortable with the basics of financial planning, investment advice, asset allocation, balance sheet, right? All of that stuff. So that comes naturally to us. So what are we looking at potentially adding in-house versus out of house? And bill pay comes up. And at first we thought that would be something that we would outsource because that is a beast.
Yeah.
If you mess up somebody's bills, you're that's not fun, right? So, but it does become table stakes for very, very large clients. Yep. And so you have to go out and build it. And that's a lot. So you have to think about, do I want my firm to have 75 employees, 200 employees, or am I going to remain a small team and outsource certain things? We have had good experience outsourcing with the estate planning attorneys, right? So we don't have attorneys in-house right now, and we can go out and find, there's a really small list of people who work with taxable estates, and they're really, really good at what they do. And so that's a perfect example of where working with that outside provider. And a lot of clients also have their own staff. They have maybe an accountant working for them or a controller. And so you have more than just the end client as your client, and so you also have to think about the service models. I have a client where we have a monthly call just with the controller to talk about what kind of things are going to be coming up in the next month that we need to be prepared for.
Christian, you have April, right? That is your tax platform. I'm assuming clients will get sometimes more too sophisticated. So, like, is that when you decide to outsource? What does that look like when they're for your family office clients?
Yeah, so we have a few different solutions on the tax side depending on the wealth and complexity for an individual client. Whenever we build a solution, whether it's tax or insurance or anything else, we always go through that process of, do we build it ourselves? Do we buy it? Do we outsource it? And I think you really have to ask the question of what is your differentiation? Like, what is it that you really care about as a firm? And for us, it's the client experience. So, we'll often work with outsourced partners where we can still own the client experience and make it, really seamless and part of, the compound planning experience. And that often means that a lot of the outsourced firms that we work with are much more technology forward, where we can, capture the data on our end in our own experience, deliver it to that third party, and then get back output that we can then, show in our dashboards to our clients.
So I would ask each of you, again, why we come to conferences is we want to learn, and I'm hoping that you as you walk away with some nuggets. I'm going to ask each of you, Can you give maybe one piece of advice to the advisors as they're looking to maybe expand into the family office services? I'll start with you, Jerry.
I would say look around you. This is why Matt built Future Proof, is to network and grow, and everybody's here. We're all excited to collaborate. I'm available. I only cost 1 glass of tequila per question. So let's use each other and grow if you're interested in this space.
I love it.
Ask yourself what gives you energy, right? Does getting into a 1,000-page tax return give you energy? Maybe this is not for you, right? Does talking on the phone with the trustee because the client passed away early this morning about whether she wants to be cremated or buried, does that give you energy? Is that what you want to do? Maybe this is not for you. So I would basically do everything I could to talk you out of that, because you have to really be prepared to dive in and work hard, and a lot of times it's stressful too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How about you, Christian? Any piece of advice for people looking to do this?
Yeah, I think going back to the outsourcing piece, if you already do a lot of traditional wealth management services and you're looking to expand from there into more family office services, outsourcing can be a way to accelerate that roadmap and do it in a way where you can have really high quality advice for your clients across all the different verticals. And then I'd piggyback off what Jerry said. There's a lot of firms that are out there that already do really great work for clients that all look very different. If you're a younger advisor with next generation clients, happy to chat.
Great. Oh, and we have questions, although I don't have my glasses on. All right, so how does a firm go from simply managing money for very wealthy clients to actually offering proper family office services? Does anybody want to take that one? Yes, please.
Yeah, I would say you don't just go for it. If you're managing, money for one family that's of significant wealth, I think you broach a subject with them. It's not a situation where you're going to go, from this one person just managing the money to handling 10 full family offices. It doesn't really work that way. I would say ask the questions about what else they're working on and what else they're doing to try and ingrain yourself in there, and then as you learn and scale up that one client, you can broaden out and offer the services to other families.
Thank you. That's awesome. What do you do differently now for family office clients than what you did when you first started working in this space? Blair?
So I would say it's an evolution, right? If you're not willing to keep growing and iterating, this is also not the type of client for you, because you're constantly having to figure out, how can we do this better? How can we do this tighter? How can we have more meaningful conversations? So, we're adopting a new technology now for the balance sheet, right? You're just always changing and figuring out how to improve. So it's just a constant journey.
That's great. Well, we're getting to the end here. We hope you found this just some parting advice. They're amazing experts here. Find us. We're happy to continue this conversation with all of you. Start small. Pilot the, I'd say, high-value, repeatable services if you're going to go in there, like something like a bill pay, but making sure that they actually value a service that you're offering. Use tech wisely. What I think someone said is automate where possible so you can deliver that human touch. Invest in your people. Your team structures are absolutely critical for this, and price with conviction. Profitability ensures sustainability. So thank you, everybody. Have a great future proof, and we'll see you.